Today I'd like to show you guys this really pretty, really glitterific technique for resin trinket dishes that I do all the time when I do make resin trinket dishes. But first, let me show you guys these new molds that I got. I found these really cute leaf molds on one of those late nights, can't sleep, browsing Amazon for new molds kind of nights. If you're a resin crafter, you know those nights. You know what I'm talking about. And I thought these dish molds were absolutely perfect for this time of year. It's fall, y'all! I have shared this technique on my YouTube shorts and also on my Instagram reels, but I thought for this video, I'm going to go into full depth on how I do it step by step so you can actually see what I'm doing. With YouTube shorts and Instagram reels, the clips are just so fast that I have to speed up everything, and sometimes you miss a lot of what I'm actually doing. So this is what this video is for. So I will be using deep pour resin for these trinket dishes. I have here Let's Resin Deep Pour, and although this resin does take a bit longer to cure, usually about 2 to 3 days, it all depends on the environment of your space where you work with resin in is. But I want to make sure we don't get too many pesky air bubbles in these dishes. I also have here a bunch of different glitters that I want to use that are all autumn themed. And I also have some fake polymer clay sprinkles that I want to use so you guys can see that you can use these with this technique too. As always, the first step in resin is to mix up our resin. And since this is a 2-to-1 ratio resin, I'm going to mix up 4 ounces of part A and 2 ounces of part B to give me 6 ounces of resin. Now I'm not mixing up the full amount of resin needed to fill these trinket dishes because we are going to be doing them in 2 goes, which you'll see in a little bit. But first I want to choose the glitters I'm going to be using and also choose what I'm going to finish these dishes with. This first glitter, I'm going to finish it with a mica powder. This second glitter, I want to finish it with the same glitter. And as for the trinket dish that I'm going to be using the polymer clay bits with, I'm going to finish it with a liquid pigment. Now I did end up switching out the polymer clay mix I had originally with this one here because I really like how vibrant the colors of the pieces are with this one. Unfortunately, I don't have a mix that's an autumn theme, but Halloween is in autumn, so it works, you guys. It works. So now that the resin is mixed up, I'm going to divide the resin into 3 different cups, and it's time to add the glitter and the polymer clay bits. For the glitter ones, you want to make sure to add a decent amount of glitter because in this instant, we want that glitter to sink to the bottom. But you also want to make sure not to add too much so the resin isn't too thick that it won't pour down into the edges of the molds. This is one of those instances where you have to be the judge based on the resin you use and also how chunky your glitter is. But with a little bit of trial and error, you will get the right consistency. So now I'm going to go ahead and pour the resin into the molds and just pour enough that we get a nice line of glitter around the mold just like so. We only want a little bit because later we will be filling it up with just clear resin. But before we move on, I'm just going to go ahead and quickly use my toothpick and push down any glitter that's gotten stuck along the sides. And I'm also going to be using the toothpick to push out any air bubbles that's stuck within the glitter. And just to give the dish a little bit more extra detail, I'm going to be placing these chunky pieces of glitter on top here, which is what's going to be the base of the dish. And that's it for this dish. For this dish, I'm pretty much going to be doing the exact same thing, but since this dish has a flatter edge, we don't want to put as much glittery resin in because when we go in with our clear resin later, it might move the glitter out too much and we won't get the look we're going for. Be sure to comment down below at the end which trinket dish is your favorite. I'd love to know. And another thing about this mold edge being flatter, we're also more likely to get big air bubbles like this one right here. This one right here, proving my point. To get stuck, again, very gently with a toothpick, I'm going to pull the air bubble up and out, and that way it won't ruin our piece. Lastly, for the polymer clay sprinkle tray, we're going to be pouring our resin onto the mold, but this time we have to do all the work pushing the little bits down into the edging. As always, when you're putting toothpicks into your molds or whatever tools for whatever reason, do it as gently as possible so you don't end up scratching your molds. Resin picks up everything, so the tiniest scratch, the tiniest little indent will be seen in your finished pieces. Now, to be honest, I'm not so sure how this trinket dish is going to look. Because this mold has a more intricate design along the edging, I don't know if these chunky bits is going to work well, but if it doesn't, I will show you guys another finished piece to show you exactly how I wanted it, but keep your fingers crossed for me. By the way, if you guys want to get your hands on these polymer clay mixes, just search for fake polymer clay sprinkles and they should come up. I did buy mine off of AliExpress, and at the time they had a ton of different mixes. I will try to put the direct link in the description box if I can find it, but I've had these for a couple of years now, and I'm not sure if that seller still exists, but I'm pretty sure you can find it elsewhere. Now that the Trinket dishes are set up with the glitters and the clay mix, we're going to be filling up the molds almost all the way up to the top with just clear resin. I will be leaving a little bit of space so then tomorrow, once the resin has cured up a bit, once it's tacky, I can come back and pour the backings. But I'm just going to quickly add a little bit more glitter bits to this tray here, and yeah, okay. These dishes are now done. I'll be back in the morning, or I'll be back tomorrow so we can do the second part of these dishes and finish them off. It's now the next day and our resin has cured up enough that we can mix up and pour the backings to these dishes. This time, I'm just going to be using regular 1:1 ratio epoxy because I want this part to cure fast. By the way, I just want to mention that you can use regular epoxy resin to make these Trinket dishes from start to finish. You don't need deep pour resin. I just like using deep pour epoxy because you don't get as many air bubbles, and also because of the viscosity. It's a lot thinner, which is great for molds like these that are a bit tight in space. So I've got my glitters and pigments here, and now I'm going to mix them up, and my purple liquid pigment is going to be for the dish that has the polymer clay bits. The copper mica powder one is going to be for the dish in the middle. And lastly, I'm going to mix up more resin with the same glitter I used in the tray on the right. And then I'm going to pour the resins into each individual molds and fill it up the rest of the way so then we have the backing. I really hope these turn out lovely. I really need more autumn decor to put around my house. Going back to the topic of different resins, I just wanted to mention one more thing. You do want to keep in mind that you are using the right resins for your projects. For example, if you're going to be pouring more than a couple of inches of resin, then you do want to be using a deep pour resin because regular 1:1 epoxy may not always be able to handle being poured too thickly. A lot of the epoxy resins I do use only recommend being poured less than an inch at a time per layer because the resins can overheat quickly, and not only does your resin go to waste, but the resin can also fuse with the mold and then the molds can't be used anymore. So it's definitely something to keep in mind, and you also want to make sure you do some research. Okay, so now that I've poured the resin on the backs, by the way, I really hope that copper resin stays like that. It looks so pretty, and the pattern reminds me of something that you'd see on a tree bark. So fingers crossed it stays that way. And now I'm going to let the resin fully cure, and I'll be back tomorrow for demold. Our pieces are ready for demold, and I've put them in order of excited to most excited. So let's see what we've got. Oh, that's cute. Now, this isn't exactly how I wanted it to turn out. I'm thinking that because we have this leaf shape, we didn't get that even layer of the polymer clay pieces. So you guys can see here we have like a whole bunch there. But it still turned out really cute. I still am slightly annoyed that I didn't have the fall themed polymer clay pieces to go with this leaf trinket dish, but it's okay. I do want to show you guys in just a moment what exactly I was going for with this polymer clay mix, but you guys can also see that this deep pour resin is really good. We barely got any bubbles. And when you're doing something like this, it's best to use a deep pour resin, and then you won't get those bubbles. Even along the edges here, I don't have any bubbles, which is really, really cool, or really, really amazing. Okay, now this here is what exactly I was going for. So as you guys can see, I do have those polymer clay pieces there. We do have an even layer there, and it looks really cute, at least in my opinion. Okay, so now let's do the next trinket dish. And then this one was the one with just glitter. Oh, this one's slightly tricky to get out. You guys will, if you guys do have molds like this, you will want to be slightly careful just because right here I do have a really sharp edge and you don't want to cut yourself on that. Ooh, this one turned out really pretty. As you guys can see, this leaf I mean, this fall themed glitter really works with this leaf mold, and yeah, I'm really happy with how this one turned out. We do have a bit more air bubbles along the edges here. I guess they got trapped. The air bubbles got trapped between the glitter, but that's okay. This is still going to be used because I really love how this turned out. But yeah, you guys can see here. Look, right here, we have a big air bubble there that's made this a little bit more rough. But that's okay. This is still going to go with my fall decor, and I do love how it turned out. Now, to the last Trinket dish. Let's try demolding from this side. There we go. Oh, this one is my absolute favorite. Unfortunately, we didn't keep that wood grain texture thing in the mica powder, but yeah, this one was exactly what I was going for with this technique. And you guys can see those little bits of glitter, and it actually kind of reminds me of like leaves floating in the wind. Yeah, this one turned out really gorgeous. Let me know down below if you guys like the idea of this technique, or if you didn't, that's okay too. Let me know down in the comments why or why not. And also let me know which of these Trinket dishes is your favorite. Like I mentioned before, this one's my absolute favorite. It turned out exactly how I wanted. And on the plus side, I just realized too that there are no air bubbles along the edges, which is an absolute bonus. So if you guys enjoyed this video and you learned something, please give this video a big fat thumbs up. And if you would like to see more crafting videos that I've done on this channel, then be sure to check out one of the videos that are popping on screen now. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!